Have you ever wondered what games you should keep or you should lose? Find out here at Purge Reviews.
Heads of State is an older board game now, and it's actually been replaced by a game called Royals. So Royals is a streamlined version of Heads of State. But the question that people are going to be asking is, what about Heads of State, and is it worth an upgrade to Royals? So I'm kind of reviewing this after Heads of State has been out for a while. So I want to talk about Heads of State when it came out and how good of a game it is now, and then I'll get into a little bit about upgrading it to Royals. Heads of State is a game where it's got area control, where you're collecting cards, kind of like Ticket to Ride, in order to put things out on the board to get control of areas and thus score points by having more influence over more areas. The game is really neat on its own, but you're having this two-step process. I have to do this to get the person, then get the persons, and I put them out on the board. And where do I want to put them at, and where am I going to maximize my points? Heads of State's a really good game with tremendously bad, what looks like photoshopped artwork, and it just looks terrible by today's standards. I think when it was released, it was also kind of laughed at and jibed a little bit, but I think it was a production that wasn't as great as it could have been, which we'll soon see by the reproduction of the game. Nevertheless, Heads of State is a fine game, and when you're playing it, I don't think you ever say, wow, this is needlessly complicated. The game is rather simple, except collecting cards and getting to what you want. And then you play Royals. Royals is a better game. It's more streamlined and it is a more gateway game. But in order to get to that process, you had to lose a couple things like the assassin cards that adds a little bit more complexity to Heads of State, but it takes something away in that transition. So, what are you looking for? Are you looking for a more streamlined version of Heads of State? Are you looking for the simplest possible game? If so, then Royals is what you're going to be looking for. And I think in Royals, they actually changed some of the variables on the board and what they were worth also. With that said, with Heads of State, you're going to have a little bit more complicated game. It's an extra wrinkle to the game of having that two-step process versus really the one-step process. So it's going to be enjoyable to people in a different way. With that said, this is not a complicated game. You know, you're not playing Lisboa or Kanban or something here. It's a very simple little area control game with bad artwork. So I admit you might want to get the Royals version, but look, if you can get the Heads of State and you can save some money and you're a budget gamer and you're really wanting to save that buck, get Heads of State because it is just as good. 80% of the game is exactly the same, maybe even 90%. And you actually get a little bit more with Heads of State, as in more cards and more doing this and more doing that. It's not going to have the pretty production as the Royals, but if you're on a budget, you may not care about those things. So that's where I would say get that and stay in that little vein of yours. But Heads of State is a fine game, and you can tell because it's put in Dice Tower Essentials, and it's been recalled Royals, and been selling like hotcakes from what I can tell. So it's a very good backbone. It has the bones there of the good game that will later be streamlined. But you might want to go back and play the original, either for a collector or for just nostalgia purposes, or you might like that extra wrinkle, and if so, I would head you toward Head of State over Royals. This game right here will be a keeper for me, but I'm going to keep the Royals version and not the Heads of State for me personally. I'm going to play this game. I prefer the streamlined version, and that's where I'll stay with the better produced one also. Here are the components for Heads of State. You're going to get a long, thin box. I do not like this box size whatsoever. It doesn't fit on a shelf very well. And there's not a lot of boxes made like this anymore, so it's kind of hard to store. You're going to get this box art of this weird looking, I don't know, drawn people with photoshopped faces on. This one's the one that's extra creepy to me, of him just like staring out at you. I would guess these are people that designed the game or published it. It's just a really weird motif, and you don't see that very often. You get a bunch of cards. You're going to have the photoshopped art on them. They're okay, a little thin, but this game has lasted quite a while. So you're going to have a board. It's going to have the score wrapped around it. You have some places you're going to have some for area control. You're going to have that same photoshopped art all over it. You're going to get the player mats, which are fine. They kind of show you what's in the game and how they're going to score. This is what you'll be able to keep track of. You're going to get a cloth bag. You're going to get a rule book, full color. And you're going to get more cards, little tiles and tokens, which are nice. These wooden pieces are really, really nice. Very, very good. You're going to have your intrigue cards. Everything is going to be nice. Components are fun, especially for the age of the game. Here's the rule book. The picture is going to mimic the front of the box. You're going to have an overview of how to play. You're going to have the components all listed out, which is great. Love stuff like this. We're going to have a picture of the game set up and the preparation of it and the course of the play. Quick overview of how to play the game, and then we'll get into the rules of the game a little bit better. You have plenty of pictures. There's lots of examples, kind of how you do this, the country-specific ones, and how to score. Scoring is going to be a big part of this game. You can see that there. And then you have a game end, some important rules that you may have forgotten or that you want to point out, and then a summary of play here. It's kind of weird the summary of play is on the inside of the back because you're going to have the scoring on the back with this great piece of artwork here. The rulebook is good. I think you'll be able to play the game in no time at all, and you'll be able to, maybe 15 or 30 minutes you can read through this and be ready to play and have no problems. My goal here is just to show you the flow of the game. So what I've done is I've set up the bottom part of this board with these victory point charts, and I want to show you what a player board will look like. So on a turn, you will have these attribute cards, which will be face up, and you'll have 6, and you'll be able to choose from those to put those in your hand. After you choose what cards you're going to take, then you can use those cards, if you so choose, to turn them into nobles. And you'll have this little chart, this player board chart that each player will have. So if you want to make a baron, or let's say you want to make a count, you would need a bishop and gold in order to make a count. So there'll be different makeups that you have that you can create these people. And when you create the nobles, you'll be able to take them and place them on the board. You'll be able to place a marker. So if you were to make an earl and you wanted to take this spot, then you would put one of your markers here, giving up those cards, and then you would take this if you're the first person to play there, which would give you 3 victory points for the game. So to reiterate that, on your turn, there will be 6 of these cards that will be face up. You can take 3 of them, and then, if you so choose, you can turn them into nobles, which you can then place out on the board. And you'll get these cards that you will take, and you can use these to put them out if you have enough to put out. When you're done with your turn, whatever cards you've taken will replace with new cards. So when somebody takes over a noble spot, that space is taken and the victory points would be scored. If somebody wants to take that spot, they would then have to use one of these treachery cards, each one representing a different country. Here's German, where you'd face the gallows. You have some that will live too. So you have to give this up plus a noble in order to take the spot. It would be that you take 3 of your cubes and you put them in a bag, and 1 of the opposing person. So I'm going after yellow if I'm green. So I'd put 3 green, which is my color, and 1 yellow into a bag, and I would pull it out. If I'm successful, then I would take over the spot. The game's all about scoring, so there's a few different ways to score. You score if you're the first person to take over an area, you will get this, and this will be yours for the rest of the game. If you're able to get 1 in each of the locations in a country, then you will get one of the square ones. If you're first, for yellow, you'll get 6. If you're second, you'll get 4. And each country will score a little bit differently. The third way to score are these nude ones. And this is just very easy. If you're the first player to create at least 1 of each of the 7 types of different nobles. So that's these guys. If you create each of the 7, then you will get to 16 if you're first. If you're second, you get 12. And if you're third, you get 8. Anybody after that will not score anything. Then you will score this. So if you have the most influence in this area, each spot, then you will get the 7 victory points. If you have second, you're 4. And you'll do this for each of the 4 countries. Then you will score the influence here. So it'll be the last way that you score. And you're going to get 2 influence if you're the only one present. If you're on top, you get 2. The bottom one is 1. So if yellow was here and green was here, yellow would get 2 influence and green would get 1. And then green would have the most if that was all that was there. And you'll get these victory points, whether you're 7 in the most influence or 4 of the second, and you'll do that for each country. If you play 3 rounds in the game, whoever has the most points will win. Who should buy this game? This is for anybody that's looking to save a buck. I'm pretty sure Heads of State can be found a little bit cheaper than Royals, especially in the secondary market. If the appearance of it doesn't matter as much to you, I think the game is much more prototype looking than what you're going to get with Royals, which is a much more refined product. I think that if you're looking for a little bit more complicated game, if Royals is too streamlined for you, then you might want to take a step back and get the Heads of State. Otherwise, I think most people are going to want the total package you're going to get with Royals, and that's where I would say, hey, let's go down this path. So you decide if you're a budget gamer and you want that little extra wrinkle of complexity, or if you'd rather have the better looking version, probably more expensive and more streamlined experience, and you'll go with Royals. And you can make that decision for yourself. For me, I'm purging Heads of State, and I'm going to be keeping Royals. Thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate you tuning in. If you liked it, please like it and hit that little subscribe button. That really helps out the channel, lets us know that you're getting the videos that you want. If you agreed or disagree with what I said, feel free to comment below. I'd love to hear what you have to say, and I promise that I will comment back. Thanks for watching, and everybody else, keep playing games.